Guys, I just thought I would do a quick video of a live stream on the 8800 GTX. I'm going to be BGA reflowing it. So what that means is the GPU itself, the actual chip, let me get some paper and I'll show you. As you know, I won't get some paper. So what it is, BGA stands for ball grid array. It's how it's soldered on. It's wave soldered on. So sometimes when the GPU gets hot and stuff like that, the solder can heat up underneath the chip and flow and bridge. So it'll join, and that creates a short, meaning that the graphics card will act dead, because it is dead. So what you do is you use a heat gun, and you heat up the chip, and you basically, in the hope that the ball grid array will return to usual, because what you're doing is you're heating up the solder. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to bridge. It could be a cracked solder joint on the ball grid array. So by heating it up evenly, what you are basically doing is you're really ultimately heating it up, reflowing the solder. You're remaking the solder flow. So yeah, be right back. So yeah, in the hopes that we'll get this GPU working. It's not a new GPU by any means. It's an 8800 GTX with 812 megs of RAM. It might be a bit more than that. Actually, let's have a look. See, it's the GeoForce 8800 GTX. It's running. I don't know how much memory this has. I can't really remember. And it doesn't seem to want to tell me. Anyway, so the first step in BGA rework, or reflowing, because I'm not reworking it, because reworking, you basically get a stencil and put all the solder balls back on. You replace all the solder balls, meaning that it will ultimately be alright. So I want to remove the heatsink. I'm just going to unplug the fan. And I'm just going to basically line, turn it on, and I'm rotating the device. Right, that is better. So I'm just going to grab my towel because I am a very sweaty person, and it was just next to me and I didn't realise. So what I'm going to do is, like I say, I'm going to basically take the heatsink off, and then I'm removing all the screws around there, but the bit in the center is called the X clamp, and this is where that X is marked. That is the bit of tension to the GPU, the chip. So you don't remove them screws until you've removed all the other screws surrounding. It's usually 4 symmetrical screws. Like they're symmetrical in line. It's normally in a square shape. See anyway as we continue. Anyway. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that internet cut down. So I'm removing all the screws, like I said. You don't remove the X clamp till the very last thing, I do believe. And now it's time to remove what's called the X clamp. To do this, you remove the screws evenly so it doesn't put too much tension on it. I mean, you do each screw a turn at a time, a set turn at a time, because otherwise you'll get tension on it, especially when you're heating it. You need to wait for it to cool down. You can do this method in the oven. I don't really prefer that, called a reflow oven. I prefer the old-fashioned method with a heat gun. These heat guns are traditionally used for stripping paint. Is the bracket and the GPU connected? It doesn't look like it is, actually. And then there's 3 screws around the surrounding that basically hold this on. So I'm going to put them in there. There's one there to anchor it. Oh, I'm not going to get my screwdriver in there. Diddums. Let's get a longer screwdriver then with a thinner barrel. Or just get a screwdriver with screwdriver. This one has the rotating top. Pretty cool, I guess, if you like that sort of thing. And there we go. We're removing the anchor screw that holds the plastic bezels on to protect. So once I get this off, which shouldn't be too much longer. Right, I think what you do is, how does this one remove? They're all different, you see, and this GPU is built like a shit ton of bricks, so I'm also going to replace the thermal grease whilst I'm under here, but that's not going to happen yet. So I've removed all of the mounting screws by the looks of it. The X clamp is off. There doesn't appear to be any more screws protrude. Ah, there we go. There's little screws around the outer side holding the heatsink to the actual block of aluminum to the top of the GPU chip. So one day on YouTube I will show you what a ball grid array looks like, and I'll explain ball grid arrays BGA. So you understand in more detail how a BGA bridge can actually become damaged. I mean, I might be wrong, it might not need GPU reflowing, but I'm 99% sure that's the most common faults with graphics cards, is that the solder joint becomes cracked, and yeah, no more graphics card. The screw's actually holding it on at the front as well by the looks of it. We're going to successfully repair this. This could take up to an hour to complete. It's about an hour and 20-minute job, and you might be asking yourself why. Why am I wasting my time on a really outdated GPU? Well, because I'm a sad sack. That's why. Need to remove that, don't I? Yeah. Right, the next bit is to remove what's called the thread, the screws, the standoffs for the graphics card. So what I'm going to do is grab some miniature pliers. Be right back, because I've got to oil these pliers because they're not going to oil in a long time. Good old bit of WD-40 doesn't hurt anything. Chain on my shed door so that it lets some air in, because it's pretty warm in here today. I'm just a sweaty mess most of the time. Right, I've oiled my pliers. I'm just going to clean all the WD-40 off now, or the oil off, and that's it. These are gentle pliers because they have no grip inside. They're actually jeweler's pliers, but they're perfect for a job like this. I'm 99% sure. You can actually get a little tool that is like a socket basically, and it helps you remove these threads a lot quicker. It's like a little socket especially built for these. I'll show you what these look like as soon as I get them out. So I've started removing it, as you can probably see. I don't know why the manufacturers don't put a little notch in the end, make it easier when you're repairing them. It would. I just need to wipe all the oil off my hands because it's making it harder to turn, to grip it. Anyway, that's nearly it out. But yeah, I'm not going to show if it works. I might show if it works. I think I probably will. It's going to be a long live stream, let's just face it. Especially with all my jibber jabber in between explaining steps. Hopefully the reflowing area will be more than enough to help it basically. Maybe I'm hoping it'll be enough, the BGA reflow work, to make it work again, to bring it back to life, to revive this dead graphics card. It's on a Dell XPS 710. Now that's an old computer, but a very high-end computer of its time. It's actually from 2006, and it's like the equivalent of a Dell XPS 13 laptop back then. So it's very high spec. Yeah, it's one of the Dell XPS models. It's very old though. It's got a Core 2 Duo quad clocked at 2.66 gigahertz, and it's overclockable to 3.20 gigahertz through the BIOS. It supports DDR2 memory. Outdated, pretty slow, but it's alright for caching. I can still render videos fairly quick on it. That's the fascia plate removal. Now, the GPU, the heatsink should just pull up off if there's no more screws that I can see. Let's just double check to confirm. Another good test is just to smell and examine the board, the PCB, to see if anything actually is damaged. Because I mean, you can normally smell if a component's burnt out, and I mean that's the best way to tell straight away whether we're dealing with a GPU chip issue like a solder bridge. Because there we go, we're pulling the board away now, so it just slots out, and that's it. There's all the thermal paste for the RAM or the memory ICs. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up the thermal paste off the top of this GPU. So this is GPU itself here. Let's flip the camera. This is the GPU itself here. And this is, sorry about the unsteady hand. This is the chip that we're going to be heating up. And I'm going to remove the metal bracket from the outside of it if I can. There's still a screw holding it in, balls. So we're just going to flip it, remove that final screw, and remove that piece of alloy that helps sink the heat to the heat sink. It's like a bracket. Here we go. There it is. So that feels like aluminum to me. The next step is to clean the thermal paste. With this, you can either use cotton wool, whatever you really want to use, to be honest. I'm going to use a dab of cotton wool though, just to get all that thermal paste off. It's old, so it'll be crusty, and it will just slide off. Nice. A drop of acetone doesn't hurt. Just a drop on the cotton wool, and make sure you wring the cotton wool out. That just helps clean it even further. As you can probably tell though, it's coming off very easily. You can't actually see much. I need to get a tripod. Here we go. Right. So I'm just removing there. Next step, in a second, when I get back from the bin, we need to just to see if there's any, there's the GPU that we're going to be reading. We're just going to examine, I'm just going to examine everything, check there's no voltage regulators with any immediate obvious damage, which it doesn't appear to be. So that's all good. Let's get to the reflowing bit, the fun part. I'm going to put my tools just very quickly away. And what I'm going to do is, because this, you don't want to touch the GPU, like, you've got to leave it on something that can be static. So you don't want to start touching the GPU after you've heated it. One, it will be hot and it'll burn your fingers. Two, it will move the ball grid array and it will bridge even further, and you don't want that. All we're doing is we're effectively heating up the solder balls underneath and basically making the solder reset, and then you leave it to settle. That can take up to 10 minutes. So I'm going to use my heat gun. This is a Black & Decker one. It's 2200 watts, and I'm going to put it on. It doesn't need to be on like a very hot mode. If you feel it, it should be hot. That's the right mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it here And what you do is you evenly heat like this. Now this bit can take some time. What I'm doing is I'm going in a pattern, as you can see. If you leave it in one spot, you'll get what's called burn, and it will basically fry the GPU. Now that should be enough. Yep, that's separated it. Now, if I had the right tools, I would attempt to remove the GPU module, but I don't really want to because I haven't got the right tools to basically pick it up. Because you need to be very steady-handed when you do that. I'm not a very steady-handed person, to be honest. So, we're just going to wait for it to cool down. I need a temperature probe, really, to, what do you mean it has a temperature probe? This is my temperature probe. Now it is fairly dodgy, it's very old. I need to get a new actual temperature bit for my multimeter, really. We're gonna, basically, what I'm gonna do now, I keep saying weird, but I am going to plug this in, put in degrees Celsius. That's 20 degrees Celsius at the moment, brilliant. So it is working because it's changing for an log. So it's 20 degrees Celsius in here, but what's the temperature of this actual GPU? That is what we need to find out. Let's get the stand out. Oh, let's put the stand on the multimeter. Even though my stand's knackered on this multimeter. Right, what I do is I take the probe bit and just touch it to make sure, and it is going up, it's changing. Starting to cool now, it's at 50 degrees Celsius. So what I actually do is just place that there. and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to heat it again. There are ways to check, but I don't really want to move the GPU off center, because if it moves the slightest, it's going to be screwed up. Really? There's still radiant heat coming from it. It's still radiating heat, so that's alright. That's better. Low fan speed this time for the final bit. Oh, that's better. That's the heat I want it on. You're right, I'm just going to quickly put my multimeter away. I don't need that anymore, really. I can feel by hand how hot it is, I guess. Or roughly get an idea. Preheat the heat gun. Done. Right, guys, I'm going to be right back because I'm going to go and grab a drink. And yeah. Right, guys, I'm back. Guys and girls. Oh, pardon me. So now I've done that, I don't know what the next step is. I don't really fancy putting it all back together for it to not work. I mean, it should work, but I'm very skeptical as to whether it will. I mean, in theory, as I said, if I should reflow the RAM, but I don't think it'll be a problem with the video memory. Yeah, it might be a problem with that front side bus. I want to reflow the FSB as well of the GPU. But first, let's have a vape. Done. reflow is complete. I better get on with the front side bus. FSB. Oh guys, you can't score. Really, I want to get that metal off the top of the, like the heat, the bit that connects to the heatsink. Well, it's still hot though. I don't really want to attempt that yet. Right, I want to get a scalpel to remove it, or attempt to remove it. That's the better word for it. Yeah, you need to remove that bit of metal before I can continue. Probably going to be easier said than done though. Just something because this is still hot, you see. That's not going to remove them. I should really be taking it off just to examine. What do you guys think I should do? I'm debating now. I'll have a look for some tweezers that I can really. Or aid me in removing it. Then the coil plate, there. These tweezers in. Right, we're going to go to the bench grinder to flatten out the end of these so they're chiselled because they're rounded at the moment. I don't want them rounded. Let's go and do that on the bench grinder. Let's place you there. YouTubers. Viewers, let's place you somewhere that you'll see this happen. Where's better than putting it right next to the bench grinder wheel? Now let's, with a little pincing hammer, gently tap out. With a pincing hammer on my anvil, I'm going to try or attempt to just pinch it out a bit more so it's a bit flatter. Nice. That's it. Now let's attempt to, let's just double check that this will remove it. No, that's the wrong depth, right. I'm now going to remove the GPU. Untangle the cable to this because this is doing my 9. Anyway, guys, I think I want to sign out now. I'm not going to carry on live streaming because it's going nowhere, this is. I'm just going to replace my computer with a different GPU that I should have laying about. It's a small form factor, though. It's a crap GPU, but I need the computer to function, so I think any graphics card's better than no graphics card, because it doesn't have a built-in GPU. Any onboard GPU. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, remember, stay cool and peace.